Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm David Kilpatrick, and it is my pleasure, on behalf of the Society for American Soccer History, also known as SASH, to welcome you to our January 2026 First Friday session, the first one of the year. Founded in 1993, SASH works to promote, facilitate, and disseminate research into the rich history and heritage of soccer in the United States. You can find us best in two places: on the web at ussoccerhistory.org and on social media with our Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter/X, and Blue Sky accounts. Follow First Friday sessions at hashtag FFSS. That's double F, double S, and post about them so we can repost from our SASH account. A reminder that the SASH website, maintained by Ed Farnsworth, has many excellent resources, including a growing collection of digitized resources, ranging from archives across the planet and featuring fascinating clips of American soccer heritage. We encourage you to support our ongoing crowdfunding campaign to digitize more material and showcase U.S. soccer history. All our sessions are available on YouTube and as podcasts. Thank you, Brian Quarstad. Indeed, thanks to our amazing volunteer membership for managing all this. Are you working on something that you might like to present at a future SASH First Friday? Then please reach out to the SASH board. All ideas are welcome from current or future members to be. If a shorter format would interest you, to float some ideas that maybe you're not yet ready to present over 20 minutes, then we also organize shorter sessions with several speakers. If rather than speaking, writing is more your thing, then we also welcome written contributions for the SASH website on all areas of soccer-related history. Reach out to us if you have any questions. If you are not yet a member, you can join SASH through our website. If you need to renew, you can do so through our website. We welcome new members with open arms and friendly feet. Please visit our website and click on the Join SASH tab so you'll be eligible to receive our newsletter. A quick word about our next event, which is coming up this next week. Several of you will be attending the United Soccer Coaches Convention. And we will have if I'm sharing this right, we will have a session in room Marriott 306. Myself and Michael Lewis will be leading, along with Jack Huckle and Dr. Joe Matchnick, ranking U.S. Soccer World Cup coaches, right? We'll be ranking the U.S. World Cup coaches. So, Michael, do you want to say a quick word about that?
Yeah, sure. I haven't done my homework yet. I have an idea of what I want to do. It's a session to get everyone to participate. Obviously, it's also a way to maybe recruit new members of SASH too. Let them know that soccer history can be not just writing, but verbal as well too, or vice versa. So hopefully we'll get a decent attendance there, keeping my fingers crossed. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll be ranking our top fives and also our least favorites, and we'll have a bit of a debate and discussion over that, which I'm sure will spill out into the streets of Philadelphia. So please do join us if you'll be at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. So I'd like to welcome our main speaker today, Alex Popovich, who has been a fixture on the New York soccer scene since serving as a ball boy for the International Soccer League in 1962. Itself a terrific topic for a future First Friday SASH session. Alex is joined today with his teammates from the 1964 United States Junior National Team, the first of its kind, now known as our under-20s. And they will tell us all about their experience competing in the CONCACAF Youth Tournament in Guatemala City in April 1964, the second iteration of the tournament since CONCACAF was formed in 1961, with the merger of the North American Confederation of Football, which was founded in 1946, and the Confederación Centroamericana y del Caribe de Fútbol, apologies for my pronunciations, founded in 1938. And I'm also hoping Alex and his teammates will tell us about what the soccer scene they represented was like, how involved with the game they were after the tournament, and now how they have witnessed the growth of the beautiful game here in the United States. Joining Alex is Wally Werner. Are you here, Wally? Jim Spatansky, Brad Melchior, Vince Drake, and I'm not sure if Kevin O'Connell will be able to join us, but joining Alex will be these teammates. So welcome to the 1964 U.S. Junior National Team. Alex?
Hello. Thank you for having me on and having my teammates that, it's been a long time since everything happened, and hopefully I tried to recall as much as I could, as well as the other guys. So thank you for having us and bringing to the light, so to speak, uh, uh, something about this first team, because I think it's important that people know that there was a first team before all these U19s, U20 World Cup teams that have, you know, resources like professional teams. We went in pretty much bare bones for the first time. So thank you for having me. Oh, I can't
Thank
hear
you. And
anything.
everyone that's a member of the team, would you please introduce yourselves? Walt? Oh, you're muted right now.
Where's Wally Werner?
He's trying to, there you go.
Okay, I got it. So I'm Wally Werner from St. Louis. Was one of the 6 St. Louis players that were on that first team in 1964.
Thank you.
Uh,
Welcome, Walt. Jim Spatansky? I see you're on here, but you're muted. Uh, welcome, Jim. Is Brad here?
I just got a text from him. Let's see what he's saying.
Well, hopefully he'll be able to
Uh,
join us soon. Vince, how about you? Welcome. You're on mute, I see.
Vince, you have to unmute.
And I'd say this, in terms of all of you from the 1964 team, unless you've got a dog barking in the background, you don't need to stay on mute, because we really want to just hear your memories as they pop up, and really want this to be like a reunion conversation for all of us. So yeah, Vince, you just need to unmute right now.
We're technologically challenged.
Well, aren't we all? Aren't we all? Well, thank
There
you
we
and
go.
and
There we
welcome.
go.
Oh, here we go.
This
Hey, Vince.
this is Vince. Vince Drake. I was on that team back in 1964. I was a Mercy High School player. Wally Warner was a DeBerg High School player, and Brad Melcher was a Normandy High School player. Gary McBrady was a St. Louis U High player. Kevin O'Connell, the keeper, was a CBC player, and Jimmy Spatansky played at DeAndre. So all 6 of us from St. Louis, we got together with Alex and the rest of the group back in late April of 1964. Or excuse me, late March 1964.
So I think a great place for us to start would be the actual selection, right? This is the letter that you received, right, Alex? Notifying you a letter you received on the 9th of March, 1964, congratulating you on being named to the first United States national junior team. I'm assuming this is the same letter all of you received, yes? And it would have been from I'm assuming, the United States Soccer Federation's office at the time at the Empire State Building, yes? So I wondered if each of you could talk a little bit about that. Obviously, we've got a major St. Louis uh, contingent on the call with us today, and Alex, you're more of a New York, New Jersey metro guy. So if you know, Alex, Wally, Jim, Vince, could you tell us a little bit about how you were selected, how you found out? Did you know this letter was arriving? Was it a surprise? How did that all work out for you?
So, Wally, why don't you take it from there? Because I believe that's the letter that you saved.
yeah, yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing it, but I'm sure it's a similar letter. But we discussed this when we got together. Personally, I just got the letter and was named to the team. I think Alex had a tryout I'm not aware that anybody else in St. Louis had a tryout for this team. So yeah, we got a letter and said, hey, you need to contact your, you've been named to the team. You need to contact your school principal and see if you can get out of school. Because at that time, getting out of school for athletic activities was not an easy thing like it is today by any stretch of the imagination. So that was mainly the instructions. You were named to the team, and then get back to us if you're going to be allowed to play.
Yeah, in New York, as I recall, there were 2 tryouts, and then afterwards, I just received a phone call and a letter, um, and the only 2 people from this metropolitan area was myself and um, Pat Migliori, who was from Long Island. And I'm trying to remember what team he played for. I was playing at the time for New York Ukrainians junior team and attending Brooklyn Tech High School. Uh, and like Wally said, my father had to write a letter to the principal saying this is a great honor for my son. So he'll have to miss 2 weeks of school, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, um, it wasn't something that came very easily to get relief from the educational hierarchies.
I'm sure it's considerably easier for students at Brooklyn Tech to get out to go represent the U.S. in a World Cup nowadays.
Yeah,
Uh,
nowadays, yeah.
but yeah, you were part of that incredible New York Ukrainians club. As I mentioned before, Dr. Joe Machnik is going to be joining us at the session next Friday in Philadelphia. He's also a product of that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started to find your way in terms of playing? Well, let's start with Alex in terms of how did you join New York Ukrainians and where did you find yourself on the pitch and what was the coaching environment and how did that maybe relate to what may have been on offer at Brooklyn Tech?
What was very fortunate that my brother played as well. He played on the first New York Ukrainians junior team that won a national championship, along with a bunch of other, great players like Walter Schmotalacha, who went on to World Cup team, etc. But yeah, so I played on the boys, what was called the boys team, and then from the boys team you went to Schiller or a juvenile team, and then juniors. And I was very fortunate to have uh, great old coaches that played professionally in France and in Europe, and then they played with the senior team. And then as I was going along, like you mentioned, International Soccer League boys who were the Bull Boys. Uh, we were extremely fortunate to be coached by great coaches like Alf Sherwood, from Sepp Herberger, uh, and we also practiced with some of the teams that participated, like West Ham United, great players like Bobby Moore and those Martin Peters, etc., uh, and other teams that were in that tournament. And so that was a great environment, and we had a lot of great players from the New York area, and in Brooklyn Tech had
Alex.
a history.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, no, I'm
So,
sorry to interrupt, but you were born in the Ukraine. Where did you learn to kick a ball?
well, no, I was actually born in Augsburg, Germany.
Oh,
I was born in Germany in a displaced persons camp. Came over here when I was 2.5. And like I said, the Ukrainian community in New York City was pretty tight, and we used to kick the ball around on what we used to call 10th Street Park, which is Tompkins Square Park, in Lower East Side, um, and seemed like everybody, in that community either played soccer or volleyball, uh, baseball, football. Those were strange things for us because we didn't, so to speak, integrate that well. Everything was pretty tight. I used to call it the Ukrainian ghetto. So that's where I started playing, was down, on the streets and in the park, and then right away, on the boys team, and guys like Nick Shkirka, who you probably know, and then Joe, we knew from when he went to Brooklyn Tech. He got involved by uh, through a Ukrainian, Andy Shaparovich, and they needed a goalie, and Joe played hockey, and so he said, "Yeah, well, come along, you can do this," and that started his goalkeeping career. And then he went to LIU with Ray Klavecka, and Klavecka's brother Jerry Klavecka played with me at Brooklyn Tech, and so forth. And so it was like a progression of the ethnic community moving into either high school and other teams. So yeah.
Yeah, that Ukrainian presence and influence in the New York soccer scene is something that it itself deserves more of a highlight, right? But again, with you already being identified as one of those ball boys, and for a lot of people who don't know, Bill Cox's International Soccer League, when it was playing on Randall's Island, some of the best players in the New York City metropolitan region were identified to serve as ball boys for the ISL, and Alex was among that distinguished group. Um, Wally, Jim, and Vince, you came out of that fabled St. Louis soccer scene. Can you tell us a little bit about how you learned to kick a ball there, and how you emerged from that hotbed?
Uh, this is Wally. I guess I'll start. You guys want to? I think all of us started soccer with the Catholic Youth Council, the CYC, which was at the time headed up by Bob Gelker, who was then eventually the coach of St. Louis U. But I'll let the other guys talk. But I believe that's where we all learned our soccer in grade school early on, and then through high school. So Vince or whoever else is on, Brad, Jim.
Yeah, this is Vince. I too played CYC soccer as well as CYC baseball, and eventually started playing with a fellow by the name of Dave Berwin. Dave Berwin became my more or less mentor playing soccer later on in seventh, eighth grade, and in through high school. And that's where I learned my soccer abilities, as well as I became a soccer coach in high school, and have done that. I did that for 47 years before I retired. So that was my story.
Jim, I don't know if you want to chime in here, but basically you're saying that in St. Louis, Bob Gelker would have known you since you were pretty young. Yeah.
This is Wally. The answer to that is yes. Well, I mean, soccer in St. Louis during our age was in fact the CYC. The public schools in St. Louis, high schools, did not. Well, they played it. They started playing late, like when we were juniors and seniors. They started playing, so the whole soccer scene at a youth level was pretty much centered around. And there were
Yep.
some other organizations, but primarily the CYC. Like I said, that Bob Gelker headed up at the time. So.
And so by the time Gelker is given the reins to this team for whatever reason, again, CONCACAF is relatively new. We didn't participate in the first iteration of this junior national team competition that has, of course, evolved through the years. But however, Bob Gelker found himself in that role. He didn't necessarily need to have tryouts amongst the St. Louis players because he all knew you intimately, right? And at some point, he became the St. Louis University head coach as well, and that's where you trained at St. Louis University, right? Yeah, Vince.
Yes, he became the St. Louis University coach back in 1959 when St. Louis U won their first national championship. So, um, he had won a couple before he was recruiting us to play. And I'm sure he knew about our abilities back in the early 60s. And, naturally, he was able to handpick us throughout the CYC play. I know that he picked two backs, myself and Brad Melcher, two midfielders, Wally Werner and Jim Spatansky, and the other two forwards, one more forward, Gary McBrady, and our keeper, Kevin O'Connell. So he knew
So
all
how
about
much of a challenge was it for Gelker to put together players representing different regions of the country? If you had your kind of St. Louis scene, I don't know if there is a distinctive St. Louis style. I know from Alex's excellent article on the SASH site, and again, that's preceded this session, and I hope everyone on here has either read it or will read it in the future, so which gives a lot of details. But he immediately deployed, put you all into a 3-4-3, or what we might call a WM, right? But the WM can be very attacking, as it was when Herbert Chapman first introduced it, but it also became a very defensive thing in the hands of some other managers. What was Gelker's philosophy of soccer? What kind of style of play did he try to implement? And was that a problem for any of the players who maybe weren't from St. Louis?
Well, I can tell you that,
go ahead.
Go
ahead, Alex.
we
Sorry.
got together. We got together for 2 days, I believe it was. Was that right, guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 days.
We got together. We went to Forest Park, I guess it was, and he just started looking at all the players, guys from Los Angeles, from Philly, myself, etc. And he just kind of fit us into the mode and system that he felt comfortable with, I guess, with Gary as a point man. I guess I was sort of, on the left wing, but really playing more like an attacking midfielder, maybe, if you want to call it these days. But maybe, Wally, you can tell a little bit more of the system or the mechanics of it, how it all evolved. But it was kind of strange.
I don't think there was much to evolve. You said to put together a team in 2 days that most the guys had never seen each other before, then traveled to Guatemala. We were kids, of course, at the time. I don't know how much we thought about it, other than we had no idea what we were doing, I don't think. But I think Bob went just with the basic W formation, which was kind of a standard formation at the time, and one that he was familiar with, and I think most of the, at least St. Louis players were familiar with. It wasn't anything too sophisticated. I don't remember even talking about the formation personally. I don't know, Vince or Brad or Jim, whoever else is on, might want to comment on that. Just kind of went out and played. I don't remember much discussion about formations or anything.
Yeah, I really think it was more about ball possession and ball control, and I think being a ball control type of city as St. Louis has always been, he was looking for players who could, whatever formation he would play, he would be able to assemble those guys and be able to control play as best as possible. And I think that's the way Coach Gelker really looked at it back in those days.
So Alex, as a New Yorker meeting up with these St. Louis superstars, were they playing a different style of play than you would have been a little bit more used to? Would you have competed against them in any tournaments by this point, or was everyone there in the camp a stranger to you?
Everybody was a stranger, but system-wise or soccer-wise, I think everybody around the country played basically the WM kind of, with variations of certain players had more freedom to move around, like myself, for instance, and it really wasn't too difficult to meld in or merge into style of play. But there, like Wally said, there really wasn't any real tactical meetings, discussions, blackboard sessions, or anything like that. I mean, you got to remember, we went there with 18 guys and one coach, period. I mean, if you read the article, you'll see. It was pretty bare bones operation. And
So in terms of that delegation, right, we've got in this photo here, Mr. and Mrs. Harry Krause from New York. If you could tell us a little about who they are. There's Coach Gelker in the middle and Eric Werner on the right. Some of you may recognize that badge on the jacket. I actually had a badge, that badge on a jacket when I was a kid in the early 80s. And boy, I'd like to see that make a retro comeback. I really like that. Uh, can you tell us all a little bit about the Krause couple and Eric Werner?
I believe that Harry Krause and Mrs. He was either the head of USSF or and Mr. Eric Werner, I think, was either they were officials in the USSF organization. Specifically, what titles they had, I don't recall. And then it was just Bob Gelker, who was the coach, period. And I think that delegation, Mr. and Mrs. Krause and Mr. Werner, left after all this initial celebrations and parades and etc. And then it was just us with Coach Gelker.
So what do you remember about the traveling either to St. Louis or leaving St. Louis to Guatemala City? Must have been quite the adventure.
Like I mentioned in the article, that for most people, outside of St. Louis, it was the first time for us to be on an airplane. It was for me, going to the TWA terminal in Queens, getting on a plane, and for the first time with one suitcase, because it was pretty bare bones, and then being in in St. Louis for a couple of days. And then the flight down to Guatemala, I believe we stopped in New Orleans, if I'm correct, either
Yes.
New Orleans or Belize, Honduras, somewhere over there, before we hopped on a puddle jumper to Guatemala City. In Guatemala City, I recall looking out the window, and there are these mountains, and then there's this little strip, airstrip, and this guy dove in and landed on this little strip, which was pretty harrowing, to say the least. So that was kind of interesting. And then they loaded us on a 1947 yellow school bus, and took us into downtown Guatemala City to a hotel there.
So here's a team photo. It looks like it was taken down there in Guatemala City based upon the Chiclets bubblegum ad behind the goal. What can you tell us about the conditions down there, and how much time did you have to prepare for the games, and how amazing must that have felt to put on that USA jersey?
Well, it was, for me, it was pretty exciting. We were, when we first started, we had to go through this sort of parade of nations, sort of like what the Olympics have, where everybody goes into the stadium, marches in, and then you line up on the stadium, and they take this oath to compete fairly, et cetera, et cetera. And so it was very exciting. It was sort of send chills down your neck, to see so many people. First of all, in a stadium to watch, to come and applaud and watch soccer games, and then the practice, the facilities. What I was surprised at was that the stadium, this Mateo Flores Stadium, which I have a picture here of. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see it? No. No. Well,
where was that at, Alex? Where was that? Was that the stadium we played in?
Yeah, that's the stadium.
Okay.
That's the stadium. And I don't. Why don't you guys? And what I was surprised at was the lack of a lot of grass. I mean, I was for me, it wasn't too bad because I was used to that in New York. Playing in College Point, etc. I mean, the only grass stadium that we ever played at was in Randall's Island, but all the other fields, Eintracht Oval, College Point, New Farmers Oval, all those, they were Metropolitan Oval. They were all dirt fields, so that didn't bother me too much. But why don't you guys, maybe Wally and Jim and Vince, give some of your recollections?
I remember it the same way, but we were pretty much used to the same thing. We basically, for the most part, played on city parks, which consisted of course, playing on part of the baseball diamond as part of the field, which many times was, especially in the winter, was all chopped up from previous footprints and then would freeze. So I don't remember that being a big deal to us, to me at least, because it was pretty much what we were used to as well. As the fields of that, and in our day, were not even close to what's happening in the last 20 years or so. So I don't know, Vince or somebody may want to talk about that.
Yeah, I recollect the same thing. It was mostly all dirt fields, and they were flat, but that's the way it was back then. And like Wally said, we played on fields that had infield baseball diamonds, part of the soccer field, especially all the ones at Forest Park, where we trained at to prepare for the tournament. But all these places that I'm seeing here, the team picture, I mean, that's all dirt. I think there was a reference to one of the center offs at the beginning of a game. I think some older gentleman they were recognizing this older gentleman in the picture there. If you can slide back and forth with some of those pictures. But that was all dirt. Yeah, that right there, this picture right here. You
Yeah,
can
that's
see
at
the
the
dust,
stadium. That's the
whatever.
opening game.
Yes, that was the opening game. And I think, Alex, you said there were 20, 30, 40,000 people. I don't remember, the crowd sizes and all that. I was just in awe of just being, part of the whole situation, representing the country. And it was just an amazing feeling to be a part of that.
There's Vince in the picture, far right, with the glasses.
Ah,
Yeah, I was the player that wore glasses, and that was kind of my trademark, I guess, because they didn't have contact lenses back then. So I played in wire rim glasses all the time. That is Jim Spatansky
Jim
right there next to
Spatansky.
me, I think. And
Yeah.
um, Alex, is that you at the end there on the left?
Yeah, that's me on the end.
Yeah,
That's
and
me
I
on the
think
end, and
oh,
there's
there's
Kevin,
Gary
the third
Brady. I see
guy.
Gary. Wally, I don't see you, Wally. You were a starter too. You started all the games.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess he was further on in the picture. So
Yeah, yeah. But it was really, it was just spectacular.
that's one of the things I think that's kind of interesting to when we look back and talk about the heyday of the NASL and the atrocious AstroTurf fields at the time. A lot of you had been playing on dirt fields at places like Met Oval and where not baseball fields growing up, right? So it may not have been such a disaster to have to play on AstroTurf the first few times, but obviously we can see here that the chalk probably didn't necessarily make it through the 90 minutes, but this is evidence of the amazing crowds they had there in Guatemala City, right? Was the environment hostile towards the Yankees coming on down to Guatemala City?
not at all. I mean, I do remember though that there was military all over the place, uh, but nobody was ever hostile or you know or anything like that. If anything, they were pretty friendly. I thought. What do you think, guys?
yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, Vince.
I thought it was relatively friendly, except I can remember it was either before the game started or at halftime or after the game. I can remember a beer bottle actually being thrown near our bench. While either before the game or after the game. But I thought, oh my God, what is going on? So I don't know if we were really that well liked at all.
Uh-huh.
But
It wasn't
but
tossed to you because they thought you were thirsty. That's what you're
yeah,
saying.
that's what it was. Yeah, we needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we needed something to drink. But uh, it was just 2 weeks of our lives that I mean we'll just never forget. But it was just hard to remember actually the playing of all these games and who we were playing against. But I can remember the players that we played against. We were much younger. We were 16, 17 years old. I think we were playing in an under 20 tournament. So when I walked on the field, I looked at these players we were playing against. They looked like they were men. We were
Especially
so much
Jamaica.
younger looking.
Especially the Jamaicans.
Yeah. Well, if you crop those Jamaican guys, I mean, a couple guys had beards. I mean, it was amazing. These guys looked like young men. We didn't know what we were up against. But
And so it was
I thought we were competitive. I really did.
Jamaica was your first game, right? The opening game, and
Yeah,
and
that
it,
was a
it seems like it was
1-1
quite a
tie.
battle, right? Yeah.
It was a great battle. It was 1-1, I believe.
Yes.
Was it a 1-1 game? Alex, you remember?
Yeah, it was 1-1. It was a bloody battle for me.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were
And
taken out. Yeah, Alex?
Yeah, I ran into Rudolph Anthony Pierce, who went on to play in Atlanta, the Atlanta Chiefs, I believe it was the team. Yeah, I was running one way, he was running the other way. We kind of just collided. It was weird. And I thought I was sweating. And, I'm putting my hand on my face and I looked up and it's all red. And so they took us off. The doctor says, "Come on in my Jeep." And the guy took us drove us to the hospital, didn't wait for any kind of ambulance or anything. And went into the hospital. They sewed us up, came back, patted us down, and I think I even came back into the game later on.
Yeah. Because again, there would have been no substitutions, but at least it evened out. Both you and Rudy Pierce left
Right,
to get
right,
medical
right.
treatment,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. But yeah, we did well. I think in all the games that we played, we did well, and we even had opportunities to go ahead. Just were unlucky on a couple of them. I know Brad Melcher hit the post a couple of times. I know I did. Wally probably did as well. So, but yeah, we were kids playing against more mature players. I think is would be fair to say.
Yeah, I'd like to. This is Wally. The other thing is you got to realize it's almost comical in a way. We want all of us. We're in our own little environments, playing in our own little cities, and all of a sudden, we're in an international tournament. We have no. I think we were completely naive looking back, and had no idea what to expect or any experience or anything. We were going from our comfort zone where you play in your city, you kind of know the teams, you know the players, you know what you're up against, to a completely unknown, and as it turns out, in a lot of cases, much older players. So it was quite a time.
So you have 48 hours to recover from that intense physical battle against Jamaica, which ended 1-1. And so 2 days later, you have to face Nicaragua. And Alex, you had to sit out, right? Al
Yeah,
Sackle had eaten or drank something that didn't settle with him.
yeah, right.
So what do you remember about the game against Nicaragua?
I don't remember much, but maybe the other guys do.
Wally, do you
I
remember
know this
the
is Wally.
Nicaragua game? Did we lose 1-0 or
No, it was 0-0.
It
zero
was a
zero?
0-0 tie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine Kevin O'Connell would have had to stand on his head, I guess, to keep it at 0-0. I don't know how offensive we were at that game. I really don't. Wally or Jimmy may know more about that.
No, I don't. This is Wally. I don't really remember any details of that game, to be honest.
mean, I just looked at some of the articles that we saved, newspaper articles, and it did say that the U.S. team played, tough, but nothing came up in terms of offense, whatever. I see is Jimmy still on, or I see he's muted, but I haven't heard him say anything yet. Spatansky,
Is
you
Jimmy
there,
there?
Jimmy? I don't know.
Okay. Is Brad there?
Brad couldn't get on. He said he couldn't hook on for it with his phone. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay.
So then that next game, right? So you've had a 1-1 draw, a nil against Jamaica, right? 0-0 draw against Nicaragua, and then yet again 48 hours, right? You got 2 days later. You've been there for however many days, and who do you have to face? The host, Guatemala. What was that like facing the host nation with all those fans in that stadium?
I just remembered that we scored first. Gary scored first, and I think uh, I think they were really surprised. Yeah, and then
Maybe
they
we shouldn't
tied.
have turned first. Maybe we shouldn't have scored first.
Yeah, and then they tied us, and at halftime, as I recall, it was still tied, and we played well, and Kevin stopped many shots, but then Guatemala came through and beat us 3-1. So
Hey, can you guys hear me
unfortunately,
You
now?
talked about the physicality of the Jamaica team, and you don't really necessarily
Yeah.
remember much about the Nicaragua team. But oh, there's Jim. Hi, Jim.
Ah,
You see
I've
there.
been fighting to get you get on here for the last half hour.
There we
hey,
go.
here he is.
My
Welcome.
nephew just helped me do it. I'm an
All right.
80-year-old idiot.
So what do you recall about the playing style of these other teams, right? If the St. Louis style was a very possession-based type game, were you able to maintain possession? Were
I
the
don't.
other teams parking the bus, or was this
Thanks,
you,
Dave.
you just remember the physicality? What do you remember about the playing style of the other teams?
Well, I don't know that the playing style was that much different. They were saying, they all seemed older than us, but I don't know that was really that much difference. We had some pretty good ball players. You know, he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting
Wally.
into the I don't know the
Well,
scores and
obviously,
everything.
yeah, Guatemala had a massive home crowd there, I believe that day,
Yeah,
right?
one thing you guys were talking about. I don't remember anything about that beer bottle, but I do remember when we came onto the field. If you guys remember, was it Estados Unidos? Estados Unidos? They were screaming for us. Don't you guys remember that?
Yeah, we're coming out of that tunnel,
Yeah,
and you had to go
they
up the
were.
stairs.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
they.
it was pretty friendly, I thought.
Oh yeah, they're pretty friendly, and I don't remember anything about them being dirty players or anything.
No.
It was enjoyable. I never have anything like that again.
So obviously
But
the home team got another 2 goals on you in the second half, right? You lost 3-1,
three
and
to
you had a
one,
few
yeah.
more days of a break, right? Rather than just another 48 hours, you had actually, wow, 4 days. What do you remember about the time off? Were you able to explore the country? Were you able to?
Yeah, remember,
Uh,
guys? They took us in boat. We played. I don't know, some little city up in mountains. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Chichi Castanango.
Yeah, that's
We
it.
went,
Something like that. And I
Remember
think we won, didn't we?
we
Yes.
went up there. We played a practice game,
Yeah,
and we also took a trip to Lake Atitlan.
yeah. That
It's
beautiful
kind of
mountain area
volcanic
around
lake.
it. Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and then we had, and Wally, you remember there was some kind of receptions we had gone to.
Well, I think at one of the places they had us, maybe where we played the game, it was a school associated with where we were at. And I
Right,
think we had like a social or something in the evening with some of the students from the school. Kind of
right.
remember that one night that taking place.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We took a
And you know,
cab.
we were located. Our hotel was in the main part of the city, and so I remember, and Jim was my roommate. You know, we
Yeah.
you could walk around. You could walk around freely. There were quite a few military, but I think that was not due to soccer. I think that was due to the government situation at the time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think, yeah.
but yeah, I think the city was friendly. The crowds overall were friendly, and like I said, we walked around quite a bit on our own and without any difficulty.
So with two draws, a loss, you found yourself second place in the group, and then your next match then was against El Salvador at the Mateo Flores stadium. Um, that was a different experience from the other three games and the friendly that you played too. What do you remember about facing El Salvador that time?
As far as how would you mean? I mean, do you think they were different, faster, slower, or better? I don't know. I think
Well,
we had a very
obviously,
good team.
it was a 4-2 loss.
Right, four to
So
two.
it's the most that you conceded, and were they just at another level from the other teams, or were you all just a bit exhausted from being in Guatemala that long?
And I just think that they got off to a real good start for some reason. I'm not sure. Maybe Vince can talk more because he was on the defense.
Oh,
Yeah, it was his fault.
yeah. I just, we were probably, after having played 3 games in 6 days and then another practice game in between, I thought we were exhausted. And that, if there's any excuses, I would use that because I don't think we were allowed any subs, were we not?
Correct.
Uh, did they allow subs back then? I don't
Nope.
remember, Alex. Do you?
I
I
don't
don't
remember.
remember.
Well,
I mean,
they
unless,
wouldn't have allowed substitutes, and that would have been why Alex could have come back from the hospital and gone right back into the match, right?
okay,
Because there were no
okay.
Yeah.
subs. If your goalkeeper was injured, somebody else in the field would have to go in goal, right? That's just the way it was. But that El Salvador team were no slouches, right? They ended up winning the tournament. Guatemala and El Salvador went on to the semis, but El Salvador ended up defeating Guatemala in the semi, and then they defeated Honduras in the final. So no, yours is no disgrace for having in that fourth game lost to the eventual winners. So how did everything wrap up when you traveled back to the States? To what degree did any of you stay in touch? I'm assuming that would have been a little bit easier for the St. Louis contingent. What were your lives in soccer like when you got back from this tournament?
Well,
Well,
this is Vince. I lost 15 pounds because I got sick. I was sick because of the food and whatever we were drinking down there. And that probably had an effect on all of us as well. Um, I came back and I was out of school even for a week or so because of being ill. You know, Montezuma's revenge and all the other things of losing weight. I went down to like 115 pounds. I started the tournament, I think, at 130, 135. So when I came back home, I was sick.
Hmm.
hmm, I, I didn't have any problem.
You didn't?
This is yeah. Well, this is Wally. I didn't either, and I think as terms of we just went back to our homes and back to business as usual, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sick of St. Louis. There were three from Philadelphia, and some of us that played for one of the junior teams, Jim and Gary, Kevin. We played some of the Philadelphia guys in a final uh, for the Junior Cup uh, later that summer. So we did see some of them again. Other than that, I personally have had not any contact with anybody other than Alex.
Yeah, I know that Pat Migliori went on to Brown University. I ran into him for a few years. Roman Kuch, um, ran into him afterwards. He was the substitute goalie from Chicago, who he's now a professor of physics or something at Yale. But Pat, I lost track of and haven't been able to get in touch with him. But most of us came, I mean, I came back, we finished school and went to the University of Bridgeport for college, and in the summertime went up to play in Canada. So back then when you were playing in college, you couldn't play for a semi-pro team or anything like that, and they always tracked you very carefully where you played, uh, especially if you were any good. The other team didn't want you to be able to participate, say playing for New York Ukrainians in the Cosmopolitan League, or back then it was known differently. So it went back to normal. And I unfortunately suffered a pretty bad knee injury, and that ended my career later on, about 4 years, well, 5 or 6 years later. So I was hoping for other things, but didn't happen.
You've certainly stayed connected to the game, right?
Yeah. I coached for a while. I got my B license, and but then I got also involved heavily in volleyball. So I played volleyball on a high level and coached, and but then afterwards, just kind of I left soccer basically. I just stayed in touch with old friends and games and coaches, and haven't been to a coaches association meeting in I don't know how long. Now it's like crazy. But it's interesting when I see some of the names, guys that I know very well, like Joe. I always get a kick out of it's Dr. Joe now. I said I knew you won.
Vince, Jim, Wally, how was your engagement with the game when you got back from Guatemala?
Well, as go ahead, Vince.
No,
Go ahead,
good.
Wall. You go first.
So as I said, basically it went back to business as usual, and then that fall, that was after we graduated from high school. See, Vince and I started at St. Louis University, played down there, and then Brad came along later. Gary McBrady went to Michigan State. So did that, and I continued to play soccer at an amateur level, during college or after college season was over, and probably till I was about 32 with a club team called Kudus in St. Louis, which was one of the better teams. And then I got involved with coaching, and I started coaching my sons, and I just this past year just retired. So I was involved with coaching at a club level for like 48 years. So I stayed pretty involved with soccer.
My soccer career ended when I had disc surgery during college, my junior year, and I started teaching and coaching soccer at a local high school, St. Thomas Aquinas, and I've been coaching. I've coached for 47 years in high school, and been pretty successful, winning 12 state championships in high school soccer. So I stayed with the game for a long time. But when I retired as a head coach back in 2015, I started coaching as an assistant with my son-in-law at a local public school. So, and I just retired this past year from that. So I've been, with the game that long as well.
A wise investment from the United States Soccer Federation.
Yeah.
These were-
Well, I played until I was 41. There's a long story about me going to Michigan State that I shouldn't even bring up, but I turned down the thing because I didn't want to leave the girl that I had at that time. Would you believe that? That was true. So I went to Flow Valley. That was it. But like I said, I played till I was 41. Uh, Thoroughly enjoyed the game. Then I moved down the Lake of the Ozarks and started building houses. And my sports were all over then. But I moved 15 times in my life, finished houses off, and basically that's it.
Good.
I'm not
Well,
unhappy.
well, we're about at the hour mark here, and I'd like to open the floor to questions. And I see Tom McCabe has one. Tom,
Hello,
floor is yours.
from London, England, but from New Jersey. And I have a question for the St. Louis folks. You mentioned the CYC, the Catholic Youth Council. I think for the group here and for folks who are going to listen after, can you talk a little bit more about the structure of that? I mean, the sense I get is that you were more or less a parishioner of a national parish. It could be an Irish church, an Italian church, a different ethnic group. And then they had the teams there and you would compete against each other. And then when it came time for high school, you would kind of meet up with your rivals. Can you talk a little bit about that scene? Because it's so different than lots of other American places, over time, because you had the structure. And I'm sure Dave Lang could chime in on this as well. Thank you.
This is Wally. So St. Louis is a very Catholic town, lots of Catholic churches in all the neighborhoods. Initially, a lot of them were organized, like my parents and grandparents' day were around the origins of their ancestors, like the Irish, the Germans, the Italians, etc. So the sports programs were associated with the church and normally the school that you went to. And then the CYC organized all of this into leagues, geographic leagues by parishes around your area. And then at the end of the year, of course, they had a playoff system where if you won your league, and there were a number of leagues across the city, it was one loss and out. You kept playing until somebody was the champion. But that's where all the soccer was, and that's generally how it was organized. I don't know. Other guys want to chime in, but
Yeah, Wally.
go right ahead.
Yeah, this is Vince. I agree. There were over 100, maybe 150 parishes around the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County, and back in those days, and the CYC was like where all the kids played, and even if you weren't Catholic, you could play on a Catholic team. So even some of the kids who went to public school could play on the Catholic teams and participate. But by and large, soccer was a Catholic sport back in those days, and not until other types of leagues came about did the CYC eventually become much smaller. But most, like Wally said, every small area where there was a Catholic school, a Catholic soccer team, Catholic baseball team, Catholic basketball team. They were, kind of limited to 2 or 3 or 4 sports. But by and large, all the Catholics played soccer and baseball and basketball.
There was a huge factor in the great 1950 team that defeated England, right? 1-0. And some of the products weren't just soccer stars. Even somebody like Yogi Berra starred in both baseball and soccer, right? So that scene had been going on for some time before this 1964 team was assembled there. Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's excellent, and you've added some color. At this one comment, I interviewed Peter Millar, who played for the full national team when they were trying to qualify for the 1970 World Cup, and he was talking about some of his call-ups. You'd get a letter or a telegram, and then you would meet in the parking lot, like do some wind sprints, and then go out and play. So, I mean, I think this is kind of a common thing across the U.S. national team programs of the 60s and into the 70s. Very little preparation. coordination and resources. But yeah, I'd love to get confirmation of that, on the youth side as well. Not unexpected.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when I talked to Steven Torres and I told him, I said, well, we had 18 guys and one coach and two uniforms and one sweatsuit, period. And he was like, what? Uh, and again, today you have one, you have a team and a coach today, and then 6 months later, it could be a different coach. There was no continuity. There was no real, organizational continuity, as I would call it. It was like, one year it's this guy's the coach, next year that guy's the coach. There was no training camps per se. You go in and train for 2 weeks, and from the training camp of 24 guys, they selected 14 or 16. Nothing like that until, I don't know, 1990s or the 2000s.
Well, not to make it personal, but my son spent 2.5 years down in Bradenton with the U.S. under-17s and would have played in a CONCACAF World Cup qualifying tournament. He had more than two uniforms and a pair of sneakers, that's for sure. His schooling was paid for, his room and board was paid for. I mean, it was just, it was totally different, situation, in I guess 2 generations later.
Yeah, well, and that's really what triggered me to try to write this article and to try to get the attention of the USS. Because when I called U.S. Soccer and I told them, "What do you have?" I don't see anything about the first team, and they said, "What first team?" They didn't know anything about it, and I just felt everything has a beginning, and not complaining, but there was a beginning. There was a first man in space. There was a first guy who broke the 4-minute mile. There's always a first in something, and it should be noted. And these young kids, it would be good for them to know what the origins of the youth national team system came from. I'm reading U16 girls team playing in Costa Rica. I'm like, it blows me away, that it's wonderful. It's great, but I would like them to just put a note somewhere and say, yeah, this is where it all started. And, I think we deserve that.
You alluded to Steven Torres, and I should just mention he's the president of the Association of North Central America and the Caribbean of Football Investigators, the ANCCIF, right? And he's a tremendous resource in CONCACAF history. I asked him to join us here today, but he was unable to greet us. But I should also say Tom McCabe, who just asked that question, is our immediate past president of SASH. And we have another question from our current president of SASH, Kevin Telek Marston. Kevin?
Thank you, David. Thank you, gents. That was absolutely fantastic. Really, really interesting. I've had a long interest in the history of the youth game. So to hear from the horse's mouth was wonderful. I did want to pick your brain on two things. One, I was curious, what were your memories of the refereeing? What was refereeing like in that tournament? Were the referees local? Did they come from all across CONCACAF? Did you guys travel with a U.S. referee? Was that part of the delegation? I was curious to know a little bit more about refereeing in general. And then also, I was digging through my archives and stuff, and I wanted to pop this in there because there was another name that I thought was in this team, but I guess was not. The Alex will like this because it actually has he's listed down there. I don't know if you guys can see that. But this was a little news extract that I pulled out of the Ukrainian newspapers from the 1960s. And it also talked about a Peter Matig. I will not pronounce this correctly.
Matizio.
Yeah. So do you have any memories of this, Alex? And could you speak to this as well? So those were my two quick questions for you.
Well, Peter Matizio was a goalie for our junior team, the New York Ukrainians, and I have no recollection of him being selected or anything. I don't know, unless he was selected and didn't go, but
Okay.
I don't recall because I mean, and Peter passed away a couple of years ago, so I don't. I know who he is, but I don't recall him being part of the team or anything like that.
Okay.
As far as refereeing, my recollection is they were referees from Central America. We did not travel with any referee. Like I said, our delegation was, the Krauses and Mr. Werner and Coach Gelker, and then the Krauses and Mr. Werner left, and then it was just us and Coach. Uh, no referees. The refereeing, uh, I don't recall any kind of specific incidents or issues with the referees. So I guess they were okay. I know back then, they didn't have 3 or 4 referees. They only had one guy, and then they had 2 linesmen, running back and forth. So they had to do that Z pattern, running across the field to try to keep up with play. But I don't recall any kind of flagrant fouls missed or penalties argued over. Do you guys remember anything, Wally, Jimmy?
No, I don't. I don't remember referees being an issue one way or the other.
Yeah, they're all good. Yeah.
Well, thank
So,
you very
Hope that
much.
answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Helpful. And then there was one other thing for Alex. You'll like this, just as a little memory from youth stuff as well. The All-Star squad selected by the Ukrainian National Association. Right
Yes.
there in the middle, some big names there across this list. Mike Noah's in here. Alex, you got Corey, you got Myron Kulas, you got some wonderful Ukrainian names here.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear more about the history of the Ukrainian soccer community, because that is a completely it's a wonderful story that has probably not yet been told enough. So Alex, if you have more in it for some more material, we would love to have more on that as well.
As you know,
Sure, yeah.
as you know,
that
Kevin, I
team,
would enjoy that too.
Understood?
yeah.
You don't
Remy
talk to him,
Lubica
you talk to me.
seconds
Is that
that. Yeah.
understood? And in this
Excuse me,
game right now. All
What's
right.
that, Patrick? What's that, Patrick Sullivan?
Nope. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So Remy Lupica is seconding that, and I would third the motion if I could. Yeah, would love to hear
yeah.
even more about that. And again, like I said, Dr. Joe Matchnick is going to be at the SASH session in Philadelphia next week, and we'll try to maybe rook him into that because I think it's a really really
that
important
particular
topic.
team that you're referencing, that all-star team, was probably one of 4 all-star teams that I played on. We played against Dundee United in Kearney, New Jersey, and the Ukrainian National Association is sort of a fraternal or Ukrainian fraternal organization, sells insurance. They're an insurance company basically, and they were sponsors always of lots of different events, and they put together this all-star team of different guys from Toronto, Chicago, Philadelphia. You mentioned Noha and Snillik and Lalka and Kulas and Skora. I mean, it was like it was nice to be recognized and selected. We played Dundee and in Kearney, and it was a lot of fun. And I remember we played against another team in Chicago. We played an all-star game. In Toronto, I remember playing against a team from Portugal in the Azores, and I had the fortune of scoring 3 goals in that match. Recall Simoes, who was on the Portuguese national team, afterwards came up and said, very good, very good. So, yeah. Thanks for remembering that. I'll be glad to, have another get together and try to recollect as much as I can about Ukrainian All-Stars and their Ukrainian teams and how they what influence they had in the whole scene. Between Philadelphia, the Ukrainians who won a number of Open championships, Newark, SASH, Toronto Ukrainians, Chicago, Montreal. So yeah, there are lot of real good players. It was interesting that there weren't any Ukrainians that I recall came from St. Louis. So,
Alex, if I may say, first of all,
yes.
it speaks to perhaps you were saying you were born in Germany, and the fact that you said you scored 3 goals instead of a hat trick is quite German of you. So I give you I give you credit for keeping the old version of the hat trick, of the definition of a hat trick, alive.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's Remy Lupica speaking, by the way, for those of you who can't
Yes,
see.
I see.
Yes, apologies if I'm not introducing myself and if I'm interjecting.
No, I see.
Your coach Steve Kovalenko, from back in the your what I imagine was a teammate, at least for a little bit. He is just retired recently and has been quite he and I have had a number of conversations about recalling much of what you're describing. Would be interesting to talk about in terms of the Ukrainian diaspora, and especially in New York and Brooklyn. So I'd be very happy to bring him along. I was curious if you had a relationship with
Oh yeah, I know Steve.
was.
Yes, Steve is a serial emailer of photographs and historical material over the years. I mean, he basically kept New York Ukrainian Sports Club going when all the older generation passed on, and he kept the team moving along. And I know there's some craziness going on now between two different factions of uh, who are supposed to be running New York Ukrainian Sport Club, and I don't want to get into that, but Steve has been he's been the one kind of steady force in keeping Ukrainian soccer team going, and he's, I guess, widely recognized in the Southern New York State Association and New York City soccer and New York State soccer uh, areas. So yeah, I know Steve very well.
I appreciate you letting me ask. He for the record and for everybody else who is not as obsessed is the word I'll use for myself with New York soccer, New York and Brooklyn soccer history. Steve coached the Ukrainians. He played on the youth team, then played for a few years with the senior team, and then coached the team for over 50 years before stepping down from that role a few years ago and retiring from his. All of that was alongside having a full-time job and retiring from that a few weeks ago. In fact, he is a living memory, both in terms of what is in his head. And Alex, it sounds like what he emails often because he basically has the whole archive of the club at his home, from what he tells me.
That's right. He does.
So we've got a follow-up question about the CYC from Chuck Carlson, club historian of the Chicago House, is in the house, but he's actually in a library and he's unable to ask the question. So I'll pass this along. I think I know the answer to this, but maybe I'm wrong. Did the CYC in St. Louis organize any gridiron football competition, or was there more of an emphasis just on the association code?
Not that I know of.
No, there was no. It was,
Gridiron football or real American football?
Yeah.
no, there was no
CYC couldn't
football.
afford it. They couldn't afford football.
Yeah, but it was really soccer, basketball, and baseball, right? Is what I think of with from what I know about St. Louis CYC.
Right.
I'll tell you who could really give you the whole history of St. Louis soccer is Dave Lang, who I think you have on the Zoom as well. Dave has written a couple books about the history of St. Louis soccer, and he is like the ultimate guy who, if you want to go to for an answer, it's Dave Lang.
Indeed. Dave, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. Hey, Vince, thanks for the plug to Chuck's in the mail.
Well, that's
just a little bit about the CYC. It was formed, traced its roots back to 1893. And by 1966, they had over 400 teams and were the largest youth soccer organization in the United States. And it was over a period from like 1956 to 1984. St. Louis teams won 19 U.S. Junior Cups, just to give you an idea of how dominant St. Louis youth soccer was in the time period that we're talking about with this team, this first U.S. Junior team.
Chuck has a follow-up question for the St. Louis players. Did you compete at all against Illinois teams?
No, I
No.
personally did not.
No, I don't think we did. No, it was all just St. Louis County, St. Charles County, but nothing east of the river.
The only time we ever did is when we were in Junior Cup. Occasionally, depending what the draw was, we would play a representative. You know, us being if you played on the Missouri representative, you would play against the Illinois Cup winner. But on a regular basis, we did not engage with Illinois.
Yeah, when Wally talks about cup, he's talking about his club teams, I think, and they were not specifically CYC.
Correct.
Yeah.
My first coach in 1976 was a guy named Dick Traw, who was also a product of the St. Louis scene. So I was very much brought up with it, and that possession style was certainly emphasized with us at the time. So those of you who don't know the incredibly deep connections the St. Louis scene has to the history of U.S. soccer, yes, you would do well to invest in the books by Dave Lang. Thank you for joining us, Dave, and chipping in. Does anybody else have any questions or comments that they would like to add? I would like to share one more image with you here. This is a photo that is not from 1964. This is not from Guatemala, although the leaves might suggest that the background. You guys came together relatively recently. Alex and the others that are in this photo, can you tell us a little bit about this reunion, how this came about, how difficult it was perhaps to reach teammates who weren't from the St. Louis area, and where you got together and what trouble you got into?
Well, you know, I was in touch with Wally for I think a few years, you know, just kind of off and on. And like I said, what triggered this whole article and everything else, and then culminated in this reunion, it was, you know, I want to bring this team to the forefront to let people know that it existed. And so I tried getting together, trying to find as many players as possible. Roman couldn't make it. There's from Chicago. The Philly contingent, I couldn't track them down. I tried to get, you know, I couldn't find Pat Migliori, couldn't find Juskowicz from Pittsburgh, Al Tassel, I don't know where, he was in San Francisco, James Fonte from Massachusetts, Milan from Milwaukee, all these other guys, I couldn't track them. I tried finding them. The only ones that I was successful, and I was shocked, there was all the 6 guys from St. Louis were around, and they were alive, which was great. So, you know, I kind of worked with Wally to try to find a date, and we finally, you know, got it all together and met in Wally's house. That's in Wally's basement there. And I aligned us up in the same positions. I don't know if you have the other picture I sent you, David. There you go, in the same positions. Yeah, that one. You can see I'm kneeling on the left on the bottom, and there's Gary next to me and Wally and Jimmy. And then up on top, you see up right above me is Brad, Kevin, and Vince. And that's exactly, so that's the before and that's the after. So those are the guys, you know, and unfortunately, Gary McBrady suffered some physical ailment recently. I'm not sure if it was a stroke or what, and hopefully he'll get better. But right now he's in a rehab center, I believe. I know Wally can talk more about that.
Yeah, I think
But yeah, we had
that's
a great time,
yeah.
And what was nice for me was to hear was that I was able to reconnect these guys because some of them went their separate ways and haven't seen each other in 20 years. So that was really, a real pleasure for me. Wally?
Anything? Yeah, Wally.
No, I think the other thing is what Alex said is true. Some of us hadn't seen each other in quite a while, but like a lot of relationships, once we got together and met each other, it was just like old times. There was nothing awkward about it or anything. It was just 60 years later.
Yeah. I would just like to add to thank Alex for getting us all together, as well as Wally hosting in his basement back in August. It was really a great time. A few of the guys brought some of, I think Alex had his red jersey there, or one of the guys kept their jerseys. Brad had a lot of memorabilia with him, and it was nice to see everybody get back together at Wally's basement. But thanks again to Alex for getting things going.
My pleasure.
It's fascinating to think about, 1964, that's the year that AYSO was formed. SAY was formed in 1967. Obviously, the interest in the 1966 England World Cup helped kind of make Bill Cox's International Soccer League dreams come true with the formation of the NPSL, the USA, what became the North American Soccer League. But as Dave Lang is put in the chat, right, by 1966, the CYC was at that time the United States' largest soccer organization, with 447 teams and 8 age groups. This is not off my memory. This is Dave Lang's comments in the chat, right? And St. Louis really dominated the sport from 1959 to 1979. 15 U.S. Junior Cups, 13 NCAA titles, 9 NAIA titles, 8 JUCO championships, right? So the story of American soccer is very much something that can and should be told through St. Louis. I confess from my New York biased perspective. It is indeed a rich tradition, and as I said, it's one that I've been aware of since I first started kicking a ball in the 1970s, of how rich that scene was in St. Louis. And again, this was nothing new. This was already something established by the time players such as Wally, Vince, and Jim really were standouts from that. So again, when you think about the exceptional soccer players that would have been playing in the 1960s, what an amazing honor it must have been to be picked out from so many hundreds and hundreds of really talented soccer players in that St. Louis scene to make that 1964 team. And I would note now that we're starting to approach the 90-minute mark, so we're approaching full time. I'm not sure if anybody has any further questions. And yes, Kevin just said we should have a SASH session on the ball boys experience. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Get Arnie Ramirez on.
Yes, we could. Yeah, we could have Arnie there, and of course we could bring John Harkes and Tab Ramos to talk about being Cosmos ball boys too, right? If you think about the ball boys and mascots that have been out there on pitches and those kind of formative experiences for people who went on to even represent the country, it's really quite remarkable. But Alex, Jim, Vince, Wally, thank you so much for joining us for this first SASH session of 2026. In this World Cup year, I can't think of a better way to start off than to celebrate such incredible soccer pioneers, and the fact that, like so much about American soccer history, right, we are combating the amnesia that's plagued us for generations now, right? And so these SASH sessions are an antidote to that amnesia that's plagued U.S. soccer history through the years. So this session, obviously it's been recorded. It'll be available on YouTube. And again, as I said before, thanks to Brian Quarstad, it'll be available by audio anywhere you podcast. So please do subscribe, please do comment, please do like and share. And we want to combat that amnesia so the world can be well aware and we can all celebrate the rich soccer heritage that we enjoy here in the United States, and especially as the world focuses. No games in St. Louis this summer with the World Cup, but again, especially by the time we reach the final at MetLife, right? All eyes will be tuned to the United States, and let no one think that there's anything new about soccer here. And Alex, Jim, Vince, Wally, as those great soccer pioneers, we're also grateful for what you've done representing us in 1964, and all you've contributed to the game since then, and for your contributions today. Again, our deepest gratitude. Thank you all, and thank you everyone for joining us on this first Friday SASH session, January 2026. It's going to be a great year for U.S. soccer. So thank you for joining us and kicking it off in such fine form. Thank you all.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Cheers.